injected. If you guys ever want to see the vessels in an organ, you have to have a triple injected organ so that you can see them. So you can see that they did the blue injection for the vessels and then a pink injection for the arteries. So you guys can even see the different types of arteries and veins that you guys have to identify on the models. You don't have to identify them for the practical, even though you can see them on these triple injected ones. You have to identify all of those structures that I listed out for you guys, right? The third injection in this is this yellow injection. The yellow injection is injected into where the urinary filtrate is found. So this makes it so that the minor and major calyces are held open so that you can still see that tunnel system for where that fluid would drain. If it's not triple injected, they have a tendency to collapse or fill with filtrate that gets preserved and hardens, and then it's very difficult for you guys to see them, which you guys all experienced. You had like all that white junk that was stuck in there. That's just preserved filtrate that gets all backed up in there. So you can see here very clearly the pelvis, right? And then the hilum is going into the pelvis. So this is extending to the ureter that's going to go down, okay? And then you have extending from the end of each renal papilla, where it drains into is going to be a minor calyx, okay? Where the minor calyces form together, they form into a major calyx. So here you can see you have multiple minor calyces that come together. So this right here would be a major calyx. Does that make sense? Major calyx and then a minor calyx coming off of each renal papilla. Okay, you can see some more here. You have minor calyces and then the major calyx. And you guys have your renal pyramid is this darker part of the tissue. And they're called renal pyramids because they are vaguely triangular in shape, kind of like a pyramid. Okay. These are going to make up your renal medulla. You typically have 2 layers of tissue for all of the organs of the body. The tissue that is found more inside on the organ and is typically the functional tissue is going to be the medulla, and then the outer layer of tissue is typically a protective layer of tissue, and that's going to be called the cortex. So this lighter colored tissue that extends around the outside is going to be the cortex, and then this is the medulla. On your practical sheet, I have it written that you have the renal pyramids and then you have the white columns. And if either of those are tagged and it asks you to identify the tissue, it wants you to say either the medulla or the cortex. Okay? So for these darker triangular ones, these are your pyramids. They're going to make up your renal medulla. The outer area makes up the cortex, and then you have extensions of the cortex that extend between the pyramids, like it does here. Or it does here in this little column. These are your white columns or your renal columns. They are extensions of the cortex that go between the pyramids. Okay? And then you have your hilum, your pelvis, minor major calyces, and then the pyramids and the columns are about all you have to identify for this. Okay? And you'll have 4 stations, which is why I have 4 halves.